This is a test of the Huddly C1 Crew Kit. So we have here the Huddly C1 collaboration bar at the front of the room, and then on the sides we have two of the Huddly Crew add-on cameras. These are positioned as per Huddly's design guide, so they're a little off the wall and they're angled to cross through the corners of the table and at the middle of the opposite side. Personally, I would probably position these on the side walls and further forward to give you a better angle difference between the center camera and the side cameras, but for the purposes of this test, we are doing it as per Huddly's design guide. So I am currently sitting in a seat that is right close to the bar. I am facing directly at the bar. This should look and sound pretty good. So now I'm going to move up and move around the room, and we'll see how it looks and sounds as I do that test. So here I am facing the whiteboard. I am pretending to draw something on the whiteboard, and then now I can turn and face the remote participants and gesture towards them. And then I can turn back to the whiteboard, and now I can turn and face somebody at the head of the table and talk towards them. And you should hear the difference between the direct sound as I'm facing towards the soundbar versus facing towards the wall versus facing towards the back of the room. Speaking of the back of the room, I'm now going to move to the seat at the head of the table. This is about 18 feet away, which is probably towards the limit of what I would ever recommend with a camera that uses digital zoom, because you're just limited in how far it can zoom before the image gets really grainy. So I'm here at the head of the table. I'm looking straight down the table towards the center C1 camera and the remote participants. Currently, the camera that it's using is one of the add-on cameras on the side, so you're going to see a slightly off-axis angle of me, even though I'm facing directly towards the center camera. But you can hear what the audio sounds like at this distance. You can see what the image quality looks like at this zoom level, and that gives you an idea of probably what the limitations of this system are in a room of this size. So now I'm going to turn and I'm going to face away from the display, and you can hear what this is going to sound like here. And then I turn back around and I face towards the front of the room, and that should give you some context there. So I'm going to get up, move around, and I'm going to again pretend that I'm whiteboarding on this side of the room, turn back towards the head of the table, talk to them, turn back towards the remote participants and the far end and talk in that direction, and then come back to the whiteboard. Now we're going to move to the seat that is the closest to the front of the room, and I'm going to lean in. And I'm going to be actively engaged with the remote participants. This is about as close and direct as you're realistically ever going to be in any meeting room scenario. Even when you're like right up in a table that's really close, this is probably about as close as you're ever going to get. So this should look and sound as ideal as possible, with me here leaning in, actively engaged with the far end. So now I'm going to move back around the room. 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, testing, 1, 2, check, check, hey, hey, and that has been the test of the Huddly C1 Crew Kit. Thank you. This is a second test of the Huddly C1 Crew Kit. In the first test, I positioned the crew add-on cameras as per the Huddly design specification. They were up against the front wall, spaced off of the side walls, and angled through the near corner of the table and towards the middle of the side of the table. In this test, I've positioned the C1 crew cameras further forward and closer to the side walls. This will give a better angle differentiation between the center camera and the side cameras, so that you should get a better experience when you are turning and facing in different directions. This also should get you more distance so that people who are sitting further away won't be as digitally zoomed in or grainy. So let's test this. I won't spend as much time on the audio aspect, but we will look at more of the video aspect in this test. So I'm going to get up and I'm going to move around, and I'm going to do the same thing where I'm talking at the whiteboard. But as I turn around and face this way, we can wait for it to zoom in on me in this position and see what that angle looks like. Check, 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, testing, 1, 2, 3, check, check, hey, hey, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 3. So this is now coming from the C1 center camera. But if I turn and face this way, Now that is coming from the add-on camera on the far side. So the difference between facing towards the far end and the C1 camera in the middle versus facing over here towards participants on the opposite corner, it's still a pretty narrow angle difference, but it is something that this is going to be zoomed in a little bit less. It's going to look a little bit better. If I'm here and I'm talking towards the rest of the room to the table, that's what you get from here. So as I move and I sit down at the head of the table, we're back to the center camera currently. Let's see what happens as it zooms in. So I'm going to keep talking, and at some point it's going to pick a camera and zoom in on me. Which camera is it going to pick? Right now it picked the C1 Crew add-on camera on the left side, so we've got a bit of an angled look. Let's see if it zooms in further as I continue talking. Check, check, hey, hey, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. So that's the same add-on camera that has zoomed in. Let's keep talking and see if it picks the front of room center camera. 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2. I'm guessing it may not because it's going to have to zoom in further. So even though that's a decent angle on the side versus the straight on shot, it has still decided that it is a better angle to come from over there than the center. Maybe if I turn this way and I start talking towards the participants on this side of the table, it will decide that that's maybe not the best camera angle and switch to another one. But I'm still talking and it's still on. There we go. Now it has switched to the opposite Crew add-on camera. But it still hasn't gone back to the center. So if I talk directly facing towards the center, 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2, is it going to switch? Check, 1, 2, hey, hey, testing, 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, testing, 1, 2, 3, check, check, 1, 2, hey, hey, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hey, hey, 1, 2. It is still struggling and it has not switched yet. 1, 2, 3, hey, hey. Check, check, 1, 2. And I think, again, this is the issue of even with pulling those cameras out as far as I did, it's not enough for this angle versus that angle to be a big enough difference that the camera system decides it's worth switching. So this may even be a case, even as it's now switched to the opposite C1 Crew add-on camera, this may be a case where you actually need an even more extreme camera positioning, and I think I may as well go ahead and test that next just for grins and giggles. So, unlike some of the previous tests, I'm going to actually move to this seat. So this is a unique seat for me. So most of the time when you're sitting in this seat, you're going to be facing kind of across this way, or maybe facing up towards the bar that way. But this is actually going to be a pretty good shot from this side add-on camera. Once it zooms in on me, that's probably about as ideal as you're going to get, as I'm kind of sitting slightly diagonal to face the other people at the table and the far end. It's a pretty good shot. If I turn and I face directly at the far end, it's a little bit off axis. Let's see if it's going to end up switching to the C1 camera in the middle or not. I'm guessing probably not, because again, it's not a big enough angle difference for it to decide that it really needs to do that switch. And fundamentally, that's the challenge with these cameras, is if they're too close together, the angle difference between this, where I'm aimed directly at the TV and the C1, versus this, where I'm aimed at the Crew add-on camera, it's not enough of an angular difference for the system to really decide that's worth switching. Now, if I rotate further, it may come and try to grab me from this other Crew add-on camera. Let's see what it does. 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, testing, 1, 2, 3, check, check, 1, 2, hey, hey. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To this point, it's still using that camera over there, even though that's pretty off axis. Okay, now it has finally switched, and we've got a little bit more of a direct view. So if I come back this way, is it going to go to the C1 in the middle? I think probably not. It's probably going to go back to the add-on camera over there. But even still, I'm not rotated enough that it's wanted to switch off of that camera. So now we have gone to the C1 camera in the front of the room, but it's gone to a wide shot rather than zoomed in on me. So if I keep talking, is it eventually going to zoom in on me? Yeah, so that came in a little bit. So let's keep going and see if it comes into a full tight shot. 1, 2, 3. Hey, hey, check, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, hey, 1, 2. Check, check. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hey, hey, 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, hey, 1, 2. It is still at a medium shot. I don't know if it's actually going to come into full tight or not, but I am going to keep talking. 1, 2, 3. Hey, hey. Check, check, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 3, hey, hey, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hey, hey, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hey, hey, 1, 2, check, 1, 2. I don't think this is coming in any tighter. So we're going to come back up to the close seat. And from here, I can be a close seat participant talking directly at the display. And most of my shots here really should come from the C1 at the front of the room. There's really no reason that it should come from one of the add-on cameras unless I really do turn fully sideways. So here, I'm fully sideways, and now it's still coming from the C1 at the front of the room. And let's find out if it's at some point going to switch to the add-on camera on the side. Hey, hey, 1, 2, 3, check, check, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hey, hey, and now it has switched to that camera. So even though I'm fully perpendicular to the front of room camera, it took a fair amount of time before it decided to switch to this camera, which I would say definitely has a much better angle given how I'm currently positioned. So this should hopefully give you a little bit of an idea of how the camera switching works with the cameras a little bit further spread apart. I want to note, as I kind of get up and move back around, that all of this testing that I've done so far is with the C1 Crew Kit in a speaker tracking mode and not in collaboration mode. The other mode, it tends to do a lot more aggressive switching, and it will tend to cut to participants who are not actively speaking. And most users find that distracting, and most participants in the room who aren't actively speaking and then notice that the camera has aimed on them, they get rather confused and perplexed, and that's not really a good user experience. So we do generally recommend, if you're using one of these systems, to leave it in speaker tracking mode and not collaboration mode, because that tends to be a more natural experience that both the in-room participants and the far-in participants will appreciate more. So this has been the C1 Crew Kit with the add-on cameras positioned wide and further up. Thank you. So now we are testing the Huddly C1 Crew Kit in a pretty extreme scenario. So we have the C1 collaboration bar, as expected, at the front of the room, acting as you would with a normal soundbar. But contrary to Huddly's design specs, we have the two crew add-on cameras positioned on the side walls about 40% of the way back towards the center of the table to get a more direct cross view of participants sitting at the table. So I'm currently facing directly towards the far end. And now if I turn this way and I'm facing towards the people that I'm in the room collaborating with, the camera that is across the table from me should see me, and we should switch to a more direct view of my face. So let's see how long that's going to take to switch. 1, 2, 3, there we go. So we're now getting a view across the table from me, from that camera. And it's going to be a more natural experience if you are an in-person collaborator and you're having a meeting back and forth with all the other people at the table, and you're maybe less concerned with turning and facing towards the remote participants. You're going to be able to see the other people in the room, and the people who are on the far end are going to get a more natural experience as if they were in the room with you as you turn and face and talk to all of your colleagues in the room. So let's move around and try some different seats and positions. As before, we're going to pretend that we're talking and doing stuff on the whiteboard. But the difference is, this time, we now have a camera that is on the opposite side of the room that's going to better be able to pick me up as I'm here on the whiteboard. Now, in a real-world scenario, you're probably not going to have the cameras on tripods at this height. You may have them higher. They may be a little bit more angled. Maybe you don't have full whiteboard walls. Regardless, this gives you a visual of what you potentially could experience with one of these setups if you have maybe a slightly different use case. Remember, there's no adjustments that you can make in the system itself, so any adjustment you want to make to how it behaves is going to be a function of where you put the cameras, what the angles are, and how your participants in the room are facing and experiencing their meeting. So I'm here at the whiteboard. Now I'm going to move and sit at the head of the table. Now the challenge you've got here with this particular setup is neither of the add-on cameras are really angled at all towards me. So that means that I am going to be limited to the zoom capabilities of the camera that is built into the C1 bar itself. So you're not going to get as good of a shot of the person at the head of the table. And so maybe this isn't the best solution for a room that's particularly deep, or where the person at the head of the table is super, super important, where you need that really zoomed in shot. But if you have a more collaborative environment, a setup like this could potentially be a lot more effective. So there's a lot of trade-offs to consider in what you're trying to do and what the environment is and what your needs are. So as I move around the table and I come back over to this seat, again, you're going to see that I could face towards the bar at the front of the room, and that's not a bad shot, but I've also got a pretty good shot if I turn and I face across the table and I'm talking to my colleagues here. So you're going to see the camera switch to the camera that is across from me as I keep talking, because I'm aimed at that camera, and it should eventually pick up that that is a better angle for my face and switch to that. And there we go. And that's a much better angle than when it was on the front of room camera, or even in some of the previous tests where the camera was up more in the corner of the room. It's a much more natural experience for somebody on the far end. Now, again, this isn't in the design spec of how Huddly specifies these, but it's just an example of how, if you're going to use this system, it probably behooves you to get some of these, put them on tripods, and move them around until you find the positioning that works for your meeting room in your environment and the way that your people do meetings. Because the experience is fairly different for the far end with the camera here versus at the front corner. Now, as an example, this may not be the exact right solution for you and your environment. If you decide that, hey, you really do like this camera across kind of setup, but maybe you do really want to have cameras at the front edge of the room so that it's not always the cross angle. Maybe you do want something that's a little bit more side angled. They don't officially support more than 2 add-on cameras with a C1. It does function. It's not official, but it will function. Alternately, maybe if you decide, hey, I like this idea, but the C1 itself isn't exactly, my cup of tea, you could just go to a 5-camera crew kit and do external audio. Or if you wanted this exact setup, you could do this with a 3-camera crew kit and third-party audio. But if you wanted to add additional cameras in the corners and maybe take these side cameras and push them back a little further, a 5-camera crew kit would give you a fairly similar experience in a slightly larger room. Now, again, you will have the same trade-off where you're not going to be able to zoom in as tight on the person that's at the head of the table because they're further away, especially if you have your side cameras aimed directly across the table. But all of that to say, you have options, and depending on what your needs are, how you use your meeting room, and where you want to position your cameras, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So, just an example of how we can play around with the camera positioning to deliver a few very different experiences in the same room. So, I'm going to move back around the table, and we're going to wrap this up. And hopefully you have found this to be a valuable exploration of what the Huddly C1 Crew Kit can do. I hope you enjoyed. So thank you.